All right, so time for installment number 3 here. So I've actually had the app working and on my wrist for a couple of days now. Um, yeah, it works. Is it perfect? No, not even close. But there's some limited stuff that I can do here, at least at the moment on Wear OS. We'll talk about that as we walk through the code. What I'll do is walk through the code, add some commentary, and then I'll post this code out to GitHub as well if you want to look at it. It's not going to be earth shattering. This is just a basic little tile, basically 1 or 2 steps above Hello World. So um, here we're looking at the tile service. Got some of these constants here. The button size, which controls the plus and the minus. The baby button size, which is essentially this little reset button here that resets the calories to 0. Sometimes the program just does that for you, though, which is one of the little buggy things that we'll talk about, and really probably just by design. And then, of course, we've got these are basically for the resource to make sure that we can log the various buttons and which ones are clicked on. And then here is some nice old school technique of creating this global variable. That's part of the issue that I had with losing the values out here. So when all else fails, this is the one value that makes everything work. And so I just went ahead and stuck this up as a global variable, and not best technique, but who the hell cares? It's my program. So now we'll drop down into the tile service here. Pretty standard stuff, nothing exciting. If you notice from the template that I posted on GitHub, it's not the same template. I had some struggles with that, and I had to rebuild the template. Here is also a logging function that I had to add in here. Initially trying to understand what the little bug was that was occurring. Essentially what was occurring is you could click on here and it would raise the calories, it would lower the calories, and then you could click reset and sometimes it would work. But if you paused on this for, I don't know, a minute or two, and then you came back and clicked on this, it would go back to 0 essentially, and you'd be back to 25. So I had this basically going into the calorie calculator class here, and nothing earth-shattering here. It would basically define the calorie goal and did calculate the add, increment calories, decrement calories, get the calories, get the percentage, and then reset the calories. So, but it appears that what happens is that occasionally that class gets instantiated again and basically sets it back to 0. So I basically pulled that code out here and made it real, again, old school. So, using global variable and having this code, these little functions essentially at the bottom of the program instead of in another class. And that seems to have worked. I did have it reset twice on me, once after not using the program for probably 5-6 hours, not entering anything. And then this morning when I woke up, it was reset back to 0, which isn't a huge thing. And maybe that has to do with the fact that I had charged it. So, but you can see it's still working here, and I can click the reset, it brings it back to 0. 25 calorie increments is horrible. I'll change that to 50. I don't really track down to the penny anyway. It's really just to, like we talked about before, it's an accountability thing to make sure that's the act of tracking that makes it so that I am cognizant of what I'm putting in my mouth. Going down a little bit farther here, we've got the tile builder. I'm going to call layout here, and basically pass in the global calorie count to integer and get the cal percent are the two functions that we're passing along to layout. And of course now we'll go down resource builder. Here are those IDs. We need those IDs so that we can trap them. For the life of me, when I knew that it was an issue with the class being the culprit here, I kept going back to a click event, a click event. All I need is a simple click event and everything will be fine. Of course, there's no such thing as a click event here within the tile, and that's why you have this code up here where you're trapping what it clicked when you did the rebuild. So you're basically do the action, call rebuild or call build, whatever it is, on tile request. And then that goes and sweeps through this code and says, hey, the last time you clicked the add calories, so go ahead and execute that function and then regenerate. So all right, a little technical difficulty there. Um, so back here on resource request, and then we'll drop down here into the layout. Really what this is just, building out this layout. We first are, adding in, we're here again passing along the calorie count and the calorie percent. First thing we're doing is creating the box size, basically making that as big as the watch. We're setting up the progress arc here, and there's obviously some code down here a little bit lower for how the arc works. And then we're adding the reset calorie button here next into this column builder, and then adding some of the text here. This is where we're adding the text for the current calorie count that we're adding or subtracting. And then we've got the text here that's basically hard coded at the moment that just lets you say how, what's the calorie goals that you have. And you can see here that this is just a hard coded string. A little bit of space there. Don't know that you really necessarily need that. And then we drop in and add a column, add a row within this column builder so that we can get two buttons side by side. And one of them is basically does the sub cows button, and the other one is the add cows button. And these get defined down a little bit lower, basically just making sure that you've got the right picture there. A couple little functions here to get the current calorie text and the goal calorie text. And then reset button. Here's sort of some good refactoring I need to put in here. I think this reset cows button along with the subtract and the add cows, they could all just be one little block of code and just pass in basically the other ID to it as we set it up. So I got to do a little work there, but essentially here this is just making the button smaller with the padding and the sizing, and then setting when the clickable. You're basically setting that ID to reset cows, and then you're going to do the load action builder .build. That's the name of the game here in Kotlin, I guess, is when in doubt, add a build, and you probably will make it work. It's insane. Uh, same deal here. There's no rocket science here. Basically, the exact same. These two buttons down here are the exact same, just a different image. And these images I just stole, obviously from the clip art. Nothing here real fancy. And then as we drop down, you can just see there's some, calories here. The little calculations that are needed. That's really all this is. I think this was some code that I was found online, and I was playing around with seeing if that would be a way that I could actually use the load action builder, launch action builder. Sorry. I need to investigate that some more. So that's basically it. I mean, it is all of 300 lines of code, and that could easily be brought down. But it is a working process. I'm going to, like I said, change that to 50. It does work on the phone. It actually looks pretty nice on the phone, way better than it looks on the emulator. I'm pretty happy with it, actually. But it's doing what I set out to do at the moment. I've looked into the Fitbit API a little bit, and that I don't think I can do that in the tile because that requires a permission granting, and so I think that would have to be where it spins out to an app if you click on, or if you want that ability when you install it. Maybe I'm not quite sure, but that would be another arc here because eventually I'd like to have the arc of the calories you've eaten, the arc of the calories you've burned. You can kind of see the interplay between those. And then the other thing is persistent storage. So I'm looking at how to leverage the shared preferences in the Wear OS. It looks like it is possible, I believe. I've read, some Stack Overflow posts, but it does seem that it at least may be possible. I'm going to give it a try. I'll set up a new class, like a calorie repository, and I'll add that code in there, and that'll be the next little thing that we do is probably add persistent storage in there, so we don't have to worry about losing this information. And then we've got the ability then to start thinking about how do we have a Wear OS app behind this as well. I think that's probably the next goal after that. The other thing I would really like to be able to figure out, and I think I added it up here, and I haven't been able to figure it out. So how to change the color of the arc when you're over that 100% basically. So you're basically calculating that percentage when you continue to go up the chain until you get to 1, and then you will have completed the 365 degrees of this arc. So when you get to the 370 degrees, or what would be 7 degrees above, it would be nice if this would all stay blue and this would turn to red. So just that little, as you go around the arc. So if you're, 2,200 calories instead of 2,000, you should have a nice little arc there that has some red that just gives you that visual feedback that you sucked today and you didn't follow the plan. So I think that's about it. There's really not a lot here. I mean, when you go into what we're talking about here, reset calories button, sub calories, add calories, and then just a little bit of functions here. But I think there is some opportunity. Save preferences will be next. I'll keep investigating the ability to do that arc, and then the next thing will be to see about adding an app behind the scenes so that I can do a few other things, because you can essentially really do more interesting things once you've got what you're putting in and what you're burned. Even if it's not accurate, you're assuming that this is accurate, which of course it's not. It's only as accurate as you enter the calories, and the same is true for the calories burned. It's only as accurate as what the sensor algorithm is calculating. But it really doesn't matter whether it's accurate or not. It matters whether it's consistent. And so if you consistently put in the same amount of calories, whether you fudge one way or another, and the sensor consistently does the right calculations based on whatever it's doing, just on heart rate or whatnot, I'm not 100% sure, then that's really what matters. The actual numbers are kind of inconsequential. If you're gaining weight, then you either need to up the calories burned or down the calories eaten. And if you're losing weight, then if that's your goal, then Bob's your uncle. So I think I will stop it there. Nothing, I guess I'll swing through here. Nothing's really changed in this Android manifest whatsoever since the beginning. It's just got the standard service information here. We went through there. We do have a few of the drawables that are created that basically ingest it in. Still got the little donut on startup, and then the too tight is what shows when it previews on the tile. So you can't see that in Android Studio, but it does work when you're trying to select the tile. And then I think the values is just strings and colors. I've changed some colors around and stuff, but. So I'll end it there, and no reason to waste people's time on this. I'll button up this code, I'll put it out on GitHub, and leave the link in the description for anybody that's interested, and next time we'll work on persistent storage a little bit, and any other changes that seem like they're relevant. And so, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.